Good evening, good people. How are we this wonderful Sunday evening? Welcome to Speak with Dilys. So for those of you who are watching for the first time, it's great to have you. And if you don't know who I am, I will take my time to introduce myself. So my name is Dilys. I am the host of this show. I put the show together because I felt it was very necessary for us to be able to have conversations that we wouldn't really have anywhere else, that was important, and for us to have it in a safe and respectful space, which is not quite what we seem to get on social media nowadays. But one thing I can guarantee you, once you're on this show, you will make friends, you will have discussions that are uplifting, inspiring, and also very comforting, depending on what it is we're going to be talking about. So what else does Dilys do? I am the best-selling author of the book, Not This Widow. That was my actually my second book. My first book, Predator Prince, How to Find the Man of Your Dreams, Not Your Night, on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and a few other places as well. Thank you for those that are joining. So I am also minister at New Glory Ministry in Romford. So if you are in the Essex area, do join us on a Sunday at 12 p.m. And if you're lucky, I might even be leading praise and worship, which I did today, which was lovely. I'm an events host. I'm also a qualified and accredited life coach. And the areas that I specialize in: relationship, marriage, life. Okay, so if you need to speak to me, you can always do that privately. I give free consultations at the moment, but that is going to be changing in the new year. What else do I do? There is something that I do. I'm also the patron of a school called Fountain of Youth International School in Ghana. That's a beautiful school in the Osu area. So if you are in Ghana and you're looking for a place for your child from the age of 6 months to 14, you can obviously go check them out there. And if I do anything else that I have forgotten, guys, do remind me, because I do a lot. So that's me. It's going to be a wonderful evening. You are going to see me occasionally looking on this thing here. It's called a phone. It's not to be rude, and it's not that I'm checking my WhatsApp messages. It is because I may need to refer to something in relation to tonight's show. So that's what I do. So guys, thank you for being on here. If you have joined, please do share, and also say where you're watching from, and if it's your first time or not, because that would be great as well. Before I introduce to you our guest for the evening, the first guy who has graced the screen, I should say, of Speak with Dilys. So I'm really happy about that. But firstly, let me ask, how are you guys doing this evening? If you're on Facebook, which I'll be going on to go and have a look in a second, please do show me some love. If you're not feeling great, let me know, and I will kind of, stroke you and caress you emotionally, keep it clean, just so that you feel all right and you can take in what we're going to be talking about tonight. So I hope you're feeling good. Actually, let me see what you guys are saying on Facebook, because I'm actually broadcasting from StreamYard. So you'll see that, okay, I can see some hearts. I've got 3 shares, which is great. Guys, please share as you join. That would be amazing. And let me know where you're watching from as well. So let me greet some of you. So Monica, thank you for being on here, my love. Yemisi, how are you, sis? Amadoreen, Monica has shared to her group, Live the Life You Love. Thank you so much. Haruna Mohammed says, hey, Dilys, it's been a while. I hope you're doing great. Thanks for the wonderful job. Thank you so much. And it has been a while indeed. How are you doing? Evelyn, oh, you're a queer as well. I thought they said a queer people are crazy. You're too nice to be a queer. We are queer people. We are tough. We are hard. Hi, Tasha. Thank you for being on it. Tasha says, hello, everyone. That's what we do. We show each other some love. Guys, as you join, share. Let me know that you shared, and let me know where you're watching from. So I am going to read a little bit about the guest that we are having tonight. And I'm really happy to have him on here. His name is Richmond Apau. I know him as another name from Facebook. We've been Facebook friends for a long time. He'll have to tell me how long. And one of the reasons why I liked him so much is because he is one of the rare gentlemen on Facebook. I'm not being funny, but some of you are cavemen. Y'all ain't got no game. And you will say hi for like 10 years and actually expect a response. I remember one guy did that. And I'm like, can't you say anything other than hi? And I got, how are you? I was like, block. But no, Richmond never approached me like that. I can't even remember, but I just know that he was a really nice guy. And this is the person that we are going to be speaking with tonight on Speak with Dilys. The title of this show's the title of today's show is Black and Blue. So here we go. Richmond Apau, aka Richmond Rough Daddy, is a police officer from Woodbridge, Virginia, USA. Born in Ghana, but migrating to America as a young boy, his dream was to one day be a police officer. Richmond has served as a police officer for nearly 20 years, and in that time, he has seen many aspects of life on the force and on the streets he patrols, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And this has continued to push his boundaries to help better his community. The name Rough Daddy lends itself to his unapologetic fitness training. Listen, okay, we'll talk about that in a minute. Unapologetic fitness training he offers for free after establishing a community-geared fitness program called Boot Camp 2.0 from 2017 to 2021. Black and Blue is the 5th episode of Series 6 on Speak with Dilys, where we shall be delving into what it's really like to be a Black police officer at a time where the opinion of the boys in blue is so divided. Join me at 8 o'clock, which you are doing right now. So without further ado, let me bring our dear guest on. Hello, Richmond.
Good evening, I guess afternoon or evening.
Well, where are you this evening? Where you are, I think it's afternoon.
Yes, it's afternoon.
Good. So how are you doing?
I'm well, thank you. How are you?
I'm great. I'm really good. And I'm very, very happy that you are on the show tonight. And I'm really glad that when I asked, I didn't have to beg. Not too long anyway. So thank you so much. But tell us a little bit about yourself. I know I've read a bit about you, but tell us a little bit about yourself, your journey from, Ghana, how old you were when you got to America, and what made you start to feel like America was home enough to say, I want to help my community out there.
Well, the intro that you did is self-explanatory. I don't really like talking about myself, but
you're a talk show. You better get over it.
But I started, like you said, nearly 20 years ago. It was one of those things that I've always had a passion. It may sound like a cliche, but I've always had the passion to wanting to help people in my community in any capacity possible. So naturally, what police officers do fascinated me. And I went to school, studied a little bit of administration of justice, and applied to the police department and got a job, thankfully.
Excellent. And what was that process like? Was it difficult?
Not really. It's just it's an extensive process because they have to do a lot of background investigation, make sure that you're I guess capable of doing the job, because the job is very stressful mentally. It's a lot that you see, a lot of people see doing this job, and if they don't do their due diligence and making sure that you're a proper applicant, then we can all know what can happen after you're hired. So.
But it's interesting that you should say that. And that's why, I wanted to have this conversation with you, because as you're saying that the process to become a police officer in the place like the States, there's supposed to be a very, stringent, very in-depth recruitment process. So how can we end up with officers with their knees on people's necks?
Well, I've always said to people that, we are pulled from an imperfect, society and population. So as hard as any police department would try to extract the best of the best out of them, you would always miss the few that will come through the cracks. So coming from an imperfect population into doing what we do, some people can fake. I mean, I'm not in people's mind as to why they do what they do, but if you're applying, or I mean, if you're trying to get the best of the best from a population that is not perfect, you're bound to have a few that will be imperfect.
Yeah, I think that's I think that is something that most people can appreciate and respect. But I guess where it's difficult when you're from a particular part of society, it seems to be is only the imperfect ones that we see. So as somebody that's in the police force, especially being a man of color, being a black man, being an African man, how are you able to quash those realities for people? Because I didn't want to use the word myth, because I think we've seen so much when it comes to the American police force in recent times, from the days of Rodney King to, very recently, that how do you maintain that respect as a police officer, as a black man, as an African man?
Well, I've always maintained that if I do what I took an oath to do, I wouldn't have to worry too much about the other things, because it used to bother me a lot whenever I go out there and people just clump me with other officers that they may have seen on video, gone viral on CNN, Fox News, or wherever,
Yeah.
and say that, oh, you're just like this, you're just like that. And I would get into this debate with them. I'm like, I'm not like that. You've never met me from anywhere. This is the first time I'm having this encounter with you, and yet you're thinking that I'm this person. If I were to think that you're this person, maybe a criminal that I encountered, you wouldn't be happy. So why don't you give me a chance? So getting the opportunity and going out there and doing what you took an oath to do, or be human about it, I think that is what helps me. Because thinking about all the negativity out there, because believe it or not, and I say this, and people always, like you said, you seem to see the imperfect ones out there all the time, but the vast majority of us that are doing what we're supposed to be doing, the the oath that we took to do what we're doing, you never hear about it. Whenever you do good, you 9 out of 10 you would never hear about it. But the moment you do bad, that's what makes the news. So just trying to do what is expected of me all the time is what helps me, and not try to worry about the negativity, because worrying about the negativity so much, it will just drive you insane, and you won't be able to do your job the way it's supposed to be done.
Yeah, I can relate to that. That does make sense. And I think in the times that we live, where people are very judgmental, whether, justified or not, whenever you're in that state of constantly having to defend yourself, at some point you're going to have to draw the line and say, you know what, this is me. I have to stay true to myself, and I have to stay focused. So, I can relate to that on another level, where people know you, obviously, from doing stuff on social media. People think that they actually do know you. And I always say to people that, what I allow you to know. So like yourself, unfortunately, somebody else is telling the story of who you are, because you're representing a group or a body, but still having to find your voice and say, you know what, you still have to judge me as an individual. Let me ask you something. Now, when you're in certain professions, very often you take your work home with you. Doing what you do, how do you prevent that from happening?
So I'll be honest, sometimes it's difficult. You try your best not to bring work home, but if you do it long enough, you separate it, but it's part of you. When I'm driving with friends, you see things that they don't see. You acknowledge things that they don't acknowledge. But if you don't draw the line too, and you become too consumed with it, that can also be detrimental to your health. Because emotional survival of police officers, you got to be able to separate work. Work cannot become you. You got to do other things like the fitness part
Yeah.
of what I do, so that you can decompress. Because if you don't decompress, bad things can start happening to you. So you got to be able to. It's hard to do it initially, but the more time you have on, the more you realize that there's more to life than just being this profession that I do.
Yeah, because I know when we had our little conversation on the side, and you were talking about, I was asking whether you knew about this case of this Ghanaian lady that was gunned down. It was suspected, or we didn't really know who it was that did it. But you said actually no, you didn't remember that case per se, but there was another one that really did stick in your mind. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that case and what you?
It was a case from 2000, I believe, 19. It was a gentleman, a Ghanaian gentleman, that owned his own security business, as the news reported. Uh, he got into some kind of physical altercation with his girlfriend, and he felt like his girlfriend disrespected him, so he ended up uh, killing her with a fire. And like whenever these cases come about, especially if it involves a Ghanaian, usually, or even an African, you can only imagine the kind of calls that I'll get. People forwarding the videos to me. Do you know about this? What do you think is going to happen? A lot of times I'm like, you know, let the law take its course. I can't inject myself in every little case just because a person is from Ghana. We're all adults. We're all sensible, I hope, and we make choices that we have to live with. So this particular case, I know it stunned the Ghanaian community here, because where you're from, you don't expect your fellow brethren to do something so heinous. And when you read about it, it's to just because he felt disrespected. I mean, is that a reason to do anything to anybody? So
But
it was
it's
just rather
crazy though,
unfortunate.
because Richmond, one of the things you said something really interesting, and this is where people, this is why my Ghanaian brothers and sisters, they don't like me. I talk the truth. We say that's really heinous, like how we don't really hear. Yes, we do. We hear it all the time. But I don't know how Ghanaians have been able to do this. It's quite impressive, actually, where we've been able to give this impression to the world that, oh, we don't do that. Yeah, we do. We do it a lot. Because remember, when I was running the charity, Who Will Hear My Cry back in Ghana, let me tell you something. That's when I realized that we were just as jacked up as anybody else, like on the real. And I think the back in the day Ghanaian, where we wouldn't say boo to a goose, it's not like that anymore. Just look, have you ever heard of Kasua?
Is it a group or?
No, it's an area in Ghana. I only heard about it recently. Every evil that you can think of, rape, murder, theft, is in Kasua.
Wow. But I think the issue so much is not like, just like when you're asking me about other police officers, the issue is not so much that the people are not like that. Because what I tell people is that police officers are human beings. They're just like, they have the same issues as people that we deal with. It's just that they expect the officers to be at their highest at all times. It doesn't mean that they're immune from some of these stupidities that other people do. Same as if you hear that a Ghanaian has done this, just being from there, it just moves you differently, because you're expecting them to know better and to do better. Just like whenever I hear of a police officer doing something, if you go on my Facebook page, or Instagram more, I post some of the misconduct of them. It sucks, but we have to, if we're here to serve and to protect the community, when we are wrong, we have to be able to also speak about it. It doesn't make us less of any authority figure than the next person. If one of our own have done something wrong, we put it out there and let people know, hey, justice will take its course, but we're not perfect. So with the Ghanaian one, it's just when you hear about it, it hits a little different, because
you're
part
right.
of it.
No, it does. And I think you hope that we would know better, but you're right. You kind of feel a bit embarrassed. I remember, because back in the day, when we would see nonsense on TV, like in England, for example, you'd never see a Ghanaian on it. Right now, we're reigning supreme. Like we're right in there in the trenches, like our young people, for real. So, I guess what made me want to speak to you was, I don't know of any other Ghanaian police officers out in the States. I'm sure. I mean, you call them cops. We call them, police officers. And I was really trying my best to call you a cop, even in the write-up, but I just couldn't do it, because it just sounds so foreign on my tongue. It's like, we say police, you get me? That's just how we speak. But on a serious note, it fascinated me, especially when you shared something before about wanting to do something back in Ghana, and you were met with what a lot of people in the diaspora are met with, which is like a brick wall, and you're thinking, I want to help, I want to give back. What's happening? Tell us a bit more about that experience.
This was, I believe, 2012 or 14 when I went to Ghana. And just like you see a lot of professionals, they want to be able to give back. Whenever I go to Ghana and I see certain things, I'm of the type of the mindset that if I see something that I don't like, instead of talking about it and just complaining, try to come up with a solution to address that issue. So when I went there, coming from the background of security profession, I was like, wow, the police department is this, is that. So when I went there, I went with my sister to the headquarters in Accra and wanted to meet the IGP, because here, if you want to meet my chief, you just make an appointment with the secretary, and they find time and place for you to do it. But when I went there, I met one of the officers at the gate, and I told him what my intentions were, and he looked at me like I had three heads, and was like, well, if you give a little something, then that's when we can even proceed past what I was trying to do, which is a meeting with the IGP. And I got so annoyed, I was like, how is this possible? I mean, you guys work for the people. I am part of the people, and I'm here not to do any kind of craziness. I just want to be able to talk to him and see how I can offer my assistance in any capacity. But I was just so mad. My sister was like, forget about it. Don't, push it. So I left. But basically what he wanted was bribery. He wanted some money in order for me to be able to speak to IGP. And that's why, a lot of times, not to deviate, but like, I feel like, country is in the position that it's in, because when people genuinely want to help, we don't have the leeway or the clear path to be able to help. I mean, why should I have to, at just a meeting? I don't live in that country. I want to help. I just have a burning sensation to help people. They're the ones that are going to benefit, not me. But then I met with resistance of bribery. Why? Why do I have to pay money in order to see somebody that the people put in power to serve us? So that blew my mind.
It is frustrating, and obviously I can relate to it on so many different levels. What can I say? I've been in exactly the same position, not having to offer a bribe, but I was there giving back, and it was the same thing of, oh, well, come back tomorrow. I'm like, this is my time. And I think this is one of the challenges that we face when we leave the country, or when we want to go back, because we want to help build. So when we talk about, for example, let's help build a better Ghana, it's like, yeah, we're trying to. And we do have these like little mini offices for diasporans and what have you, the year of return. All those things are great in theory, but in practice, when you really want to get your hands dirty, everybody is like this. I went for, a meeting a few months back, and it was about, the entertainment industry and culture and what have you. One of the things I raised was, well, we have all these things that we want to do, but when you do decide to release funds to help this sector, it's controlled by the few, depriving the masses. So yeah, I mean, it must be frustrating, because from when I read your bio, for somebody that's always had this desire to serve and say, look, I will give of my time, my expertise. I've gone outside. I can show you different processes, procedures, how we can do things better, structure things in a better way. And you're met with, what can you give me? It is hard. It is hard. And I can imagine how frustrated you are. But let me just hold that thought for a moment. So guys, let me see what your comments are on here. Thank you very much for watching. Please do share the broadcast and let me know where you're watching from. Tasha says, true. I'm just going to read a few comments. Marlene Frank says, good evening, everyone. Afolabi says, good evening, Lady D. Good evening, Afolabi. Thank you for being on here. Abdul Jam, how are you doing? Akostia Dodd, thank you for being on here as well. Thanks, Anita, for sharing. And he says, hello, or she says, good evening, all. Haruna said it was a hard question. I can't remember what the question was, but if I asked it, it probably was hard. Richmond, have I not been gentle with you this evening?
Yeah, that's why I'm bracing myself.
Don't worry, I'm nice. I'm too tired to be horrible today. Maybe that's why I got beaten by the rain and nearly drowned like a rat. Maybe that's why. So, God knew that he needs to kind of set me straight. So I'll be good to you. Hetty, thank you for being on here. Shirley, thank you for being on here. Hello to you. And Monica says, welcome, Richmond. Ekia Sakode, thank you very much for being on here. And Pauline Abbott as well. It is lovely to have you guys join us. Please, as you join, please do share. Haruna says, hey, Dilys, it's been a while. Oh, yes, I think I did read that. Thank you so much. So, guys, we are speaking to Richmond. Have I pronounced your name properly? Apau, isn't it?
Yes, it's close enough.
That means I've jacked it up. Now, normally you have to forgive
me. Because depending on where people are from, they say Apau, but I pronounce it Apel.
Oh, Apel. That
because you know that there's the APPAW, which is the Apau, the way you pronounce it. Yes. And there's the APPAU, which is mine, the original one, which is Apel.
You're right, because U is U, so Apel. You're right.
Have you said that?
It's true though, isn't it? Apel.
Okay, yeah. I'll pronounce it Apel.
That's because you American.
No, so that's how it's pronounced. Apel. Apel.
We love your accent, by the way. Guys, do you not love Richmond's accent? Because someone was asking where are you from? I'm like, you're Ghanaian. You just lived in the States. So it's kind of like me living in England. So no, I love the accent because it's pretty cool.
No, yours is 10 times better. 10 times better.
That's because Americans love British accents. I don't know why. Like whenever I come to the, I haven't been in America in a long while, but like, because back in the day when I used to sing, I would go there to record, I'd do music. And they would be like, say that again. That's so cute. I love your accent, which used to make me laugh. But what was really funny was one time I was singing at, there's this very popular radio station. Is it Hot 97 in New York?
Mm-hmm.
Well, back in the day, they used to have like a open mic thing. And I remember going there and I was going there to sing. And they're all Americans. They were like, oh, you seem like a really nice girl. Don't do it to yourself, child. Don't sing. Because obviously, because of my accent, they thought I was going to sing like how I speak. Yeah. So when I started singing, they were like, you got some soul. I was like, what the hell do you think? Of course I got soul.
Oh,
yeah, so the accent thing has always been funny. Let me just quickly read this comment here. Haruna says, yeah, there's FM is still alive. And oh, okay. So yeah, because sometimes I was thinking, oh, do I even remember? But yeah, it was very interesting. Haruna says, great job, officer. And to be honest with you, I have met some very wonderful officers here in Florida. As you have said, in every organization, there is a few bad people as well. Well, that's great to know. William, Uncle Willie, as I affectionately call you, he says, sorry for the experience. So William, maybe William can say what he does. Maybe I'm not supposed to say, but you know, his sorry is weighty. It's heavy, you know. Yeah. And yeah, it is sad for people that are outside trying to come back and do something. Guys, if you're watching this, please do share and do put where you're watching from. So I know that Haruna, you're watching from Florida. So welcome. Thank you so much for joining us. And I would also like to say, if you like the content that you watch on Speak with Dilys, if you're watching on Facebook, you can give what we call stars. And they are basically a monetary form of support for people like myself who give out content and are trying to make our world a better place. So it does cost money. StreamYard costs like $30 a month subscription and all other things, getting flyers done and promoting and all of that good and wonderful stuff. So if you feel it in your heart to give, please give generously. I'll be very grateful. Thank you so much. Yemisi has shared. Ali Rikiotu says, greetings to you too. Ali, where are you watching from? I know that Yemisi is watching from Ghana, so she don't need to tell me that. But guys, thank you so much for watching. If you're enjoying the show, please do put your comments in there. And if you have a question that you want to ask Richmond, please do. So we are halfway through. One thing, and I'll probably come back to the police stuff as well now. I can be very lazy. I'm not even going to lie. And I have seen the wickedness and the mercilessness and the sheer evil that you exact on your people. Most of them are women. I have seen them lifting tires, rolling tires, looking like they're about to die. Please tell me that is, mate, please don't let me come out with the British accent even more. When you have a name like Rough Daddy, talk to me. You tell me how you got that name.
Well, that is classified, so we're not going to share it on it.
Whatever. Listen, at least
How
give
that
us a
came
little
about.
something.
What was that?
Give us a little something, something. You have to let us in a little bit.
Well, like my personality is how I got that name, and it's a self-imposed name. So, like I said, it's classified, so I'll leave it at that. But going back to the fitness,
Let me just drink some water on that note.
Exactly. Let me just sip my water, right? But going back to the fitness aspect of it, like I said earlier, whenever I come across a problem, instead of complaining about it, I like to do something about it. So one of my buddies, Michael, he was also an officer with me, and he was the one that actually started it with a couple of his friends, and I just joined, and then it grew to become what it was. But we just saw a lot of people that either didn't have the funds to join a gym, or the gym was too far from them. So we essentially brought the gym to them, and we did it for 4 years. And the same like attention that you'll get from your personal trainer, the dedication, the knowledge, the skills, we had all that. But the only difference with us was that it was free, and we did it for 4 years. And it was just, the health issues that some people have, cholesterol, diabetes, heart issues. We're like, well, if we bring the exercise to you, you will no longer have an excuse not to do it. And on to top it off, it was free. So that's how we came about in doing that. But like I said, just because it was free didn't mean that you got the service that was not up to par for somebody that was
I
paying
could
for it.
see. I've seen some of this stuff. Yeah.
So it was the same way as if you were paying for it, if not even more, kind of service that people got from us. So that's how that thing came about.
It was brilliant. But how do you fit everything in, like with your work, doing that kind of stuff as well? I mean, where do you get time for yourself? Isn't there a Mrs. Appel that's kind of like not
No,
too
no,
bad?
there's no Mrs. yet.
Sorry, say that again. There's what?
I said there is no Mrs. yet.
Ladies, did you hear that? Okay, brilliant, wonderful.
But it's just with everything else, you just make time for it. Time management is a key. Uh, the job is stressful, like I said, and all that, but you have to be able to find time to do other things that you as a person love and have passion for as well, because you don't want just a job to consume you. So when I'm at work, I'm at work. I do my job the best way I know how. When I'm off, and I have my own little time, that's when I do whatever needs to be done. That also satisfies my soul, and which is, also giving back to the community in that capacity, with the fitness, other things, church, whatever it may be. I try to just make time, for other things, not just for what I do.
I love that, and I think it's funny because on my way home, remember I was saying to you, when we had to do our little test. When I said I was beaten by the rain, like you don't even understand. Like when we did our little testing, see that everything was working. I was in my dressing gown because I literally had to call my daughter and say, meet me by the door with a towel and my dressing gown because I was soaked to my skin. Now the reason why I even mentioned that was where the driver had to pick me up. It literally took less than 20 seconds for me to get into the car. And the guy behind was hooting like mad. So the driver just said, why are people like that nowadays? He said, if that was his wife standing there needing to be picked up and it didn't even take 20 seconds, wouldn't he be upset if someone treated his wife like that? And that why is it people do not think about others nowadays? And it was nice that he thought like that. And I realized in that moment that, yeah, actually, we really are a real sad generation of people that we don't give anything. And that's why people find people like you strange. And we shouldn't. We should be able to see somebody like you and think, oh, that's normal. Oh, police officers that are nice, that's the norm. People that would give up their time to people that can't afford something, that's the norm. You know, it's really unfortunate that we're in this space where we think about self so much without realizing that if we think about others a little bit more, then self is taken care of. But if we think about self, self isn't taken care of. So I have to commend you for doing that. It's
Absolutely. Like, I'll just tell you a quick story about that. I think when we, as human beings, when we become so consumed with negativity, we allow that small percentage of that negativity to become so huge in our lives that we think that's what life is all about. I pulled over a teenager maybe a year or so ago for speeding. And usually at work, I get disrespected by teens a lot. So in my mind, approaching the car, I was thinking that, well, I'm about to have probably a negative interaction, because, people don't like the police and all that. But to my surprise, when I approached the vehicle, started talking to him, he was calling me a sir and all this and that. And I was shocked. I mean, it took me out of my way of doing things. I was like, oh my goodness, like, why didn't he say, well, I don't talk to the police, just give me some issues. So what I did was, after the encounter, I didn't give him a ticket. I just gave him a warning. But I told him, I was like, can you call your mom? So he kindly did that. And I spoke to the mom and I was like, I just want to thank you for the wonderful job you've done with your son. Because
wow.
to my surprise, a lot of the interactions that I get with teens is not very nice. Disrespecting, calling me out of my name. I'm a pig. You can, think about the rest. And I told him, I was like, you've done a wonderful job. It's just that the vast majority of the people that we come in contact with are very nice to us, but it's just a very small percentage that they're so negative that if we are also not careful, we think that the small percentage make up the larger, just like with police officers. It's rather unfortunate that maybe a small percentage that may do the things that we're not particularly proud of, do that, and they end up in the public's eyes representing the vast majority of us that are out here doing what we're supposed to do, and even more. So it's just, I think we just become too consumed with the smaller negativity that we forget about the bigger picture.
But I think it's nice, and this is why I love doing this show, because even for me, I'm looking at you, that this is somebody that clearly has integrity, you're honest and what have you. And the way you are, if the people around you weren't like you, you wouldn't say that they were. Yeah. So it's helped my impression of American police. It's helped it in a way where I'm not just looking at Richmond, oh, Richmond's decent, but I don't know about the rest of them. I'm looking at Richmond thinking, at least Richmond, amongst his force, are doing what they should be doing. And I think if more people came out and put a face to the organization that they are in a more positive way, I think it would be more helpful for people, especially people of color, because we live in times where George Floyd happened when? 2 minutes ago. Already we've forgotten. Already it's yesterday's news. All the lessons that we should have learned from it and all the things that should have made that impactful, long-lasting change ain't happening. It's not really happening. It's finished. It's done. But I think what will allow people to have more confidence is knowing that there are people like you on the police force. Because if those last images is what we're left with, and like you're saying, the few bad apples in comparison to the majority that are called out on social media, and social media is a blessing as it is a curse. That's the image that's reinforced. There is no space to appreciate an alternative argument to that which has been put out there.
You're absolutely right. And the part that you said about, putting out positive image of your department. I mean, I talk about it with other officers. Some officers are just not very comfortable and they just don't like putting themselves out there to do this kind of stuff. So sometimes it's like I feel like we can be our own worst enemy sometimes, because I don't want to put myself out there for obvious reasons, sometimes security reasons, safety reasons, and all that. But then if you don't, like you said, the alternative is just the nonsense that you're left with, and people are just going to think it at times too. It doesn't even really matter. You can put positive image, do all the things that you're supposed to do, but people will still only remember that. But just the one person that it may change their mind about what police officers are here for is the one that we are targeting, because some people, they've made up their mind that they'll never like police. I've gone to calls where they needed help. I went, I investigated, but in a conversation with them, they're like, I don't like police. But by the time we're done, they realize I'm just a human being just like them. They're like, you're different. I'm like, I'm not different. You just gave me a chance to be able to express myself to you. That's why you're saying I'm different. You haven't given the other people that you come in contact with. You're basing all of this on what you see on social media or the national news, so I think
sorry, Richard, I was going to say, but playing devil's advocate, what it is, you see, and I'm sure you can understand this, these aren't situations that are just in isolation, because unfortunately what you see on social media in regards to, the police being racist towards certain members of the public, and then living in an environment that lends itself to racism, makes it difficult to have that whole trust thing going. Do you see where I'm coming from? Because we live in an environment now where, as much as we have evidence of racism, you can't really talk about it. Because if you talk about it, it means that you've got a chip on your shoulder, or you are, and I mean, I read one lady's definition of racism, which really boiled down to it being something that has been constructed by the media that doesn't really exist, and that we are allowing us. I mean, it was just so patronizing. It was just embarrassing to even read. But when you are subject to or have had those experiences, and then the people that are supposed to protect and serve are the ones that are killing you, and they don't discriminate in terms of age or sex or social status, it becomes a chance that a lot of people of color aren't willing to take. Because I've seen women saying that, look, I have to tell my son, if he's stopped by the police, he must do this. And when we are at that point, as much as it may be frustrating because it may be just a few bad apples, well, those few bad apples have had the power to instill fear in people, fear in mothers, to say, hey, this is how you need to speak to the police because I want you to come home. How do you deconstruct that mental stronghold because of what people have seen and been exposed to?
I go back to, and sometimes when I say this, people still go back to exactly what you just said. And when we're at that stalemate, we can never move forward. Just with my experience alone, and it may not be somebody else's, that the people that I deal with in terms of, the Black community, when I'm having conversations with people and they bring up quote unquote police brutality and all that stuff, I always say that, if there's an issue, then you just complain about it. And there's something that you yourself can do about it. Because at the end of the day, it's your life, right? It's nobody else's. It's my life to make sure that I'm as safe as possible. Can we start some mentorship program? If I am the one that is saying that, hey, I need to talk to this young man, this young Black man, about how to interact with police and so on and so forth, why don't I take him as a brother, a young brother, and teach him? their ways. Because like I said, I get disrespected so much at work by young teens.
Mhm.
And I always say to myself, you know, they may end up running into the wrong person one day and something bad will happen
Yeah.
because they don't seem to have, based on maybe the media or whatever the case may be, like a grip on how to deal with an authority figure, whether it's a teacher,
Gotcha.
a police officer, or whatever authority figure it may be.
Mhm.
And that interaction is where it gets bad. If I, if I'm around somebody that I know that this person, if I know that you don't like me, why would I give you any more reason not to like me further? I'm not gonna ever give you a reason not to like me. You already don't like me, so why would I give you any more reason? And that's the way I look at it. I look at things. If a person does not like me, I'm not gonna give you any more reason not to like me. I'll stay in my lane. You stay in your lane.
Yeah.
But I think mentorship also plays a role in it. If we can all like find either not in certain communities, find somebody that we can just help raise. Because a lot of, as you well know, a lot of these communities, some of these communities don't have a father figure in the home. And if you don't have a male figure in the home, that in itself is a separate problem that creates later on in life for certain young men.
I hear what you're saying, and I cannot disagree with anything that you said. But I think, and this is maybe where the stalemate comes in, because I think it's a point at which where you've ticked all those boxes, where you've said yes sir, no sir, three bags full sir. Because don't forget, you hear where I'm coming from, because you've very much spoken from you, not just the fact that you're a decent, honest police officer, but you're a black police officer. So you're likely to encounter that hostility from another black person because they are annoyed at the fact that you're a traitor. How dare you
I
cross
didn't
over?
want to not to cut. I didn't want to say that, but I get that as
Oh,
sellout.
yeah.
I
I
get that
mean,
all the time.
yeah, I can understand. I don't agree with it, but I understand why, because obviously I get it. I get why they would think that. Doesn't make sense to me personally, because I feel that the best way to be able to attack a problem is to work from the inside and not the outside. So for me, I have never had an issue with people who are of color working in the police force. For me, it makes sense, because if we were more saturated in that environment, then I do believe that some of the issues that we have would diminish. But my point also is where you have somebody that knows how to interact with the police. I mean, even in England, I'm a woman. So the experience of a black woman is very, very different from a black man. Black women are not really seen as a threat. We're just seen as being angry, even if we're just angry for the hell of it, we're just angry. It is what it is. we just deal with it. But I think for black men, you don't have to be angry. You just have to be there to be seen as a threat. And that's why, you as I'm sure you know, because we're the same color, where people say that our color is seen as a weapon that others need to be protected from. So I think that the stalemate really comes in where people say, well, I've done all of that. I can be riding in my car, and just by virtue of the fact that it's easy. So I think that as much as the mentorship and everything should go on for young people that need to learn how to respect their elders and respect authority, I think where we have an issue with the police is where there seems to be a lack of accountability in the police when things go wrong. Because many a time you're just put on desk duty when really your backside should be fired. For some of the stories that are out there, these are people that never should have had any business being in the force anyway. And when they have done things wrong, like the person who murdered George Floyd, how many times do you have to be accused of wrongdoing before somebody takes note and says, you know what, there's a problem with this person? So I hear you, but I think there's strong argument really on both sides. That's which is the stronger argument.
Yeah,
That's
and now you're completely right. And it is it's just difficult when you're on the other side. Like when I tell people, back in the days, I used to not like police officers, and the only reason was that of what I heard. I had not had any negative encounters in terms of like a police officer had done something to me. I mean, I'd gotten tickets, when I was in college, and that kind of stuff. But I had not had a negative encounter with a police officer disrespecting me or any of that. But the only reason why I didn't like him was because of the crew that I hung out with when I was younger.
Right.
Them saying that and listening to certain songs and them saying that police is this, police is that.
Yeah.
So I got that mentality that police officers are bad. It wasn't until I became a police officer that I realized that the things that a lot of times people say is not true about police officers because they haven't seen it for themselves. As a lot of people would say, oh, most police officers are this. And I was like, how many police officers have you had an encounter with? They're like, oh, I saw it on TV, and I just stopped the dialogue with them right there because it's not going to be fruitful because you're not speaking from any experience. Now, it'd be different if something personally had happened to you than you're speaking on it. That I can't say too much about. But when you're just talking from some abstract thing that you saw on TV or in the movies, we cannot have a meaningful dialogue about that because it's not going to get anywhere.
I
But
mean,
I completely understand where you're coming from.
yeah. It's a real tough one, and I think that the police as an institution have to be a lot more invested in their image. That's where the real solution, personally, I feel would lie. It's great that you're doing things in your own right, but the fact of the matter is, you're one person, but you represent an institution. The institution has to begin to represent itself.
You're right.
Especially when you said what I'm saying, especially when
I got you. The only thing I'll add to it is that in an attempt for the institution to represent itself, would take the people that are on there to represent the institution in the best positive light.
Absolutely. 100%.
Like the fitness thing that we did it for the community. It was just a way to give back to the community. Like I said, free of charge, nothing. I mean, we had a lot of people doing it at that time. I didn't get paid by the department. We didn't charge them. It's just for them to know that, hey, we appreciate them as well. It's not something that every day we're out here having this us versus them. You speed, I stop you. You commit a crime, I'll take you to jail. That kind of that. We are human beings too. We can come together and have fun without you thinking that you're a criminal. Without you thinking that I'm here,
Yeah.
a tyrant. Here to oppress you, or that kind of stuff. Then when we have more of that kind of interaction, if I stop you, you're less likely to have that negative, conversation or dialogue with me because oh wow, there's the officers that came to so and so. There's the officer that did this. We have a positive. Even if I have to give you a ticket or even have to arrest you, it'll go much smoothly than if
Absolutely.
you have never had an encounter with me. The only time you have an encounter is when you need the police. And the other thing I'll add to it is that most people on our part, most people only have the encounter with the police when they're going through their worst time of their life.
That's true.
Because when you're having a barbecue at your house, have you ever invited me when you're having a barbecue at your house?
No.
All the nice food that you post on your status. When I said I want some, you don't invite me. So we come in at the worst time of your life, and we also have to be cognizant of the fact that we have to be human because you didn't call us, for a birthday party. You called us because you're having the absolute worst moment of your life and you need assistance. And in the process of giving you that assistance, we should be very careful in how we offer that assistance, so that it does not prevent you from seeking us out in the future.
That's brilliant, and you're absolutely right. I'm going to just read a couple of comments before I ask you the last question. Time has gone so quickly. Evelyn, thank you very much for sending stars. As I said before, if you would like to support what I do on Speak with Dilys, there is an icon that says, I think it shows you a star icon, and it says give or something. Now, if you do, it helps me to be able to keep this show alive. You know me, I've done so much off my own back, out of my own pocket. And this just helps me able to, keep the content coming. This is series 6 of Speak with Dilys. There's 13 per episode. So there's been like over 80 shows that I have done single-handedly, well, obviously with the support of you guys. So please, let's just keep this going. I do hope that we are series 7. We're already nearly halfway through because next week will be series 6 and there's 13. So it's been great. But if you can give some stars, it would be most appreciated, which will go towards me doing the promos, flyers, and paying for subscriptions. At some point, as this is growing, I need to be paying for somebody to help manage the social media platforms. So guys, whatever you give is very much appreciated. So please do share this broadcast, and by all means put your comments in, because we'll be wrapping up real soon. So I'm just going to read these last few comments. Evans Matheny says, hi guys, I'm getting you live from Seattle, wonderful, Washington. For as much as the accent thing is overrated, I think at some level it gives one prestige and one stands out, hence the question, I noticed you have an accent, where are you from? And that reminds you where you come from, and it keeps you home. That's nice. I like that comment. Thank you very much, Evans. Adrian, thank you so much for sharing, as you always do so faithfully. So I appreciate you. He said, the United Kingdom police are on another level, he says. They can be wrong and strong. I think every country feels that their police are on another level. Would that be fair, Richmond?
Mm-hmm.
I think so, because in London, you're thinking that they're like this. In the States, I think they're like that. We've already gone to Ghana, and them wanting bribes is another one. I mean, if you even get them to investigate anything, you'd be lucky. So
let's not go there. That would be a different episode. Let's not go there.
The way you just looked up at the sky, like, oh, good Lord. It's like, please don't draw me into this conversation. But yeah, I mean, like they say, everybody's shoe, they know where it's pinching them. I guess it's like that. But before we wrap up and go, and I've only got a few minutes, I was curious to ask this question earlier. What one case have you dealt with since you became a police officer that really stuck in your mind, and what's the reason for that?
It was my fourth day out. I was, obviously a young officer. My fourth day out on the street, we responded to a call with my field training officer, and it was a suicide. When we got there, I didn't want to see a dead body, but because when you're in training, they try to get you to be exposed to as many things as possible, so that as you learn, you'll get better, in handling such calls. So we get there. I go into the basement, and this gentleman has shot himself, with a gun. I had to come back upstairs to provide scene security so that the family and friends could not go down there. They're standing there, everybody's crying, and being just a fourth day out, the fourth day as a police officer, my eyes became so watery, because you still haven't gotten that police officer aura, so to speak, like try to be tough all the time. So as they were crying, naturally, I'm a human being. You see somebody going through emotional pain, you feel it. If you're any kind of human being, you'll feel it. Yeah. So I'm trying my best to think about, riding a motorcycle, being at the beach, working out, just to take my mind off what was happening right then and there. And the sad part about that was that, the person, committed suicide because of a medical issue that they had with their private area. But what was worse, and what has stuck with me since then, is that, you can be on a very somber scene, be in a somber mood. And right after we left that call, we went to a call, fight with weapons. People fighting and had weapons. And my stress level was down here. Then it shot straight up to being on the high alert, because people may have guns or whatever the case may be. Then from there, we went to another call where it dipped back down again. So it's constantly going up and down, up and down, up and down. I learned that day that, this job is going to be very, very tough, because if you don't learn to put your emotions in check, that's where some of these things, and the reason why it stuck with me was because obviously the suicide, but the emotional aspect behind police officers and where you may encounter them. Somebody may have encountered me right when I left the suicide scene, and my stress level was down. But then from the other scene that, fight with weapons, like if somebody encountered me after that, I'm so alert that it's like you're on your P's and Q's. It's like, hey, is this person trying to do something? Then so it's constantly that. And I tell people, when you encounter police officers, you don't know at what point or what juncture they are in that you're encountering them. So just complying. And when I say this, people attack me for it. Just complying, even if it goes south or goes sideways, you can always, take it through the court or take it through the department. At least you will live to see what is going to happen, compared to you trying to take matters into your own, because you don't know where this officer is coming from. He's coming from this scene, so he's in his mind, he's probably taking this scene and thinking that you may also be a threat to him, compared to me coming from a suicide scene that, you're a little bit below, that you may have a better interaction with, so that's the call that, I mean, I know it's a lot to put into one, but the call was, first seeing a dead body, like my 4th day out, and the emotional aspect behind, certain calls that a lot of people don't know about or think about.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Richmond. And I knew that there was that question I'd wanted to ask you from before, but I thought, no, I'll save it for today. But thank you so much for being a great guest. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your service. Thank you for what you do. Stay safe out there. And you're doing a great job. So thank you very much.
Well, you're welcome. And thank you, too, for all you do. I know, like a lot of the things that you post out there, some people may not understand, but the people that do appreciate what you do. The one thing that I shared on my page was when you gave the TED speech about sexual assault.
Yeah.
I think it's wonderful with all the nonprofit things that you have going to help the community in your capacity as well. So thank you for what you do for the community as well in your capacity. Keep it up.
Thank you. God bless you. Can you remember how we connected? Because I can't. I just know it's been years.
Yeah. Yeah. I can't believe you can't remember. Oh my goodness.
Go on, tell me, what was it?
It was the, people from my background, when we see something, we just like to pass it on through WhatsApp, share all kinds of nonsense. And what people don't realize is that if you're sharing child pornography, because it was a video of 2 Ghanaian boys, probably 5 or 4 years old, sodomizing each other, and and an older gentleman and man recorded it.
Yes.
And I did a video about that, and I think through that was how we connected.
That was years ago.
I think you may have also done something similar about that. So I think our videos came out right around the same time. Was when I found somebody sent me yours, and that's how I started following you on Facebook.
Wow, that was years ago.
Yeah, I think 7 years or so ago, maybe more.
I think it was more than that.
Yeah. It's been a while, but yeah.
Wow, that's longer than most marriages nowadays.
No, you didn't just say that. That is messed up.
Oh my God.
You said what you said, right?
I said it. I said what I said. Richmond, God bless you. Thank you so much. My guests, my viewers are really appreciating you. Evelyn says, thank you, officer, for what you do. Evelyn says, vulnerability is unusual in the police force and in men. I said, thank you for sharing, Richmond. Kia Sarkis says, thank you. Pauline Abba says, thank you, officer, for sharing your thoughts and experiences. We appreciate you. Thank you. Adra Premper said, great discussion. Thanks. There will be more, I can assure you. So thank you so much, Mr. Officer. And I'm sure we will speak later. God bless. Thank you. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Guys, thank you so much for watching. This was a really enjoyable episode for me on Speak with Dilys. So have a great week. I shall see you next week, where we will be discussing what we discussed today, some elements of it even. So guys, have a wonderful week. God bless you. Thank you for watching. Please do share, send the stars, and keep the support coming, because your girl really does appreciate it. So take care. God bless. And I shall see you next week. Thank you.